Am I ready to go? Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Johnny Sue is still spinning on those ones and twos. Fam, Trey Wright got into the door quickly today, of course. First one in. Love you all. Love you too as well, Trey Wright. You know, your love is always appreciated on the couch. Yeah, lovely Monday. Had a nice little interview today, ladies and gentlemen, with Cynthia McKinney, right?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. I mean, she checks all the boxes.
She really does.
She really does. I mean, even the fact that she wasn't crazy about Bitcoin, she still knew about it. But she was talking about Monero, a couple other things and whatnot. But man, everything else, we talked about imperialism, we talked about foreign policy, we talked about elections, we talked about the state of Washington today, we talked about the theatrics, we talked about power.
We talked about the Great Reset.
Power. Yeah.
So it's on Rokfin Premium now, but we will release it non-premium. And I think we should release some of it on YouTube. We're not going to be able to release all of it. We're going to have to take out the COVID part, probably.
What about the election part?
I think the election part is fine. They're not focused on the election stuff.
She did mention COINTELPRO too as well.
Yeah, I don't think that's grounds for...
She mentioned everything.
I mentioned COINTELPRO like every other day on the show.
Yeah. So. She was the first ever guest we've had on the show to mention the two words that were so dear to my heart. Proprietary software. Yeah. She said it. I was like, Yeah.
She knows what she's talking about.
Cynthia.
It felt like being at home talking to her.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome. So we do have a guest on soon, so let's get to it, fam.
Yep.
Guys, get on in there, share. You know, we are being completely just taken off the algorithm. Our videos aren't being shared. So share them on YouTube, but also via Rokfin. You don't have to sign up. You can just go. I mean, usually we have a ton more people by now, but we do have to get started. So hopefully people watch the clips. Just want to go over this that we didn't get to go over last Friday, that this suspected bomber, in my opinion, was also a very disturbed person, but also like a victim of the society of how this system has completely turned people against each other, completely just created a bunch of ignorant people who blame somebody else that's different from them. And we talk about this all the time, that a lot of people are miseducated because they're lacking in things. And this person lacked healthcare. Now, this person was parked outside of the Library of Congress and was blaming Joe Biden for a bunch of things, and was talking about being a good patriot and waiting for his other patriots, and he was one of many, and that Joe Biden, he wanted to speak to Joe Biden on the phone. So he started doing this live stream on Facebook. Facebook already took his whole profile down and everything, and I just wanted to point out a couple things about him, and because I had retweeted the video. But I'm really quick before we go. I'm going to go on the, let's go on the tweet real quick. My thing is, if your immediate reaction to this is to make it about Trumpers and demand more investigations by the same covert agencies and government, labeling any anti-establishment person a domestic terrorist / extremist, you're a dangerous pawn and manufacturing consent for more surveillance. So we're seeing right now, the stupidity, because I'm freaking sick and tired of this, of the fight between supposed Antifa and supposed Proud Boys, many of whom I suspect, and a lot of us suspect, are feds, because it just doesn't, that's, we talked about it with Cynthia, COINTELPRO, and the best way to discredit movements is to infiltrate them. They've done this since the beginning of time. This is nothing new, and these people fight over their ideology, which neither of them is going to change in the way they're screaming at each other and the way they're fighting. And instead, we're all getting screwed by the agencies and the people in power. And so for me, I don't find any validity in going and counter protesting somebody that's having an anti-mass protest. I think that's dumb. There are things you could do that are far better served. And that's just my opinion. And I will stand by that. And I also think it's dumb for these people to go and attack on the Proud Boys, to go and attack Antifa, because what do you get out of it? You just get labeled more as like an extremist and all these things. And like, of course, some of these groups, there are real vile people that actually have these beliefs, but the vast majority, I think it's just a culture war fight that we have.
And that's what they're designed to do. That's what they were programmed to do. That's exactly what we were talking about with Cynthia McKinney today. It's divide and conquer. They're pitted at each other, so the people at top just skate away, scot-free. Nobody looks at them. We're looking at each other. And meanwhile, those are the real villains and the real thieves, programming people to feel this way about each other, to blame people who don't look like them. It really is a shame, because it is ignorant, sick, poor, mentally unhealthy people right now, and it just seems to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I wish, because that was one of the first questions we asked, do you still have faith in the people? And we have to figure out a way to make this, to put some of our shit aside and really understand who's pulling the strings and then go after them.
Yeah. And it's hard to do that when people constantly fighting. But so I just wanted to point out this article by Ross Story. The revolution starts today. Joe Biden's bomb suspect rants. I'm one of 5. So he was saying that he was one of many. And down here, if you go through the article, he talks about how his health insurance wouldn't pay for anything anymore. He said he'd been getting injections to his knees to help him walk, but when he went to the doctor, he said that insurance didn't cover him. He went on to say that his wife had skin cancer, but the insurance wouldn't cover it either because they considered it cosmetic, which is fucking ridiculous. That's not cosmetic. That's cancer. He said his wife had to have her nose practically removed, and he talked about not having fear, and he was talking about people starting the revolution. It's interesting they use the word revolution, and they still rely on people like Donald Trump, who we can talk about that later, because he's not really the outsider he claimed he was. And of course we knew that, but they didn't know that. They fell for it. But the fact that he mentions the healthcare, I think not having healthcare and then seeing Democrats, for example, right? I'm putting myself in this position, seeing Democrats talk about fake. I mean, they're fake about it. They don't do anything for immigrants. They don't do anything for working class, marginalized communities. They don't. But they'll say like, oh, we're gonna provide immigrants this and that. And so that is on purpose, because the Democrats tokenize the Latino and the Black minorities. And they don't do anything for them. Cynthia McKinney just said this. She's a freaking Black woman, and she knows, and she knows this. And so then what happens is these people who are white, poor, like Reverend Annie Chambers says, working class, are like, oh, look, they're giving these people stuff, and I'm working all the time here. And then that just creates this whole fight. I'm not saying that there's not hatred in some people's hearts and that they're wrong for it. I'm saying that it's by design. And I think we need to be smarter and stop falling into these traps of these progressives that are saying, well, you're just justifying I'm not justifying shit. I'm a fucking immigrant. I know what it's like to be an immigrant, and I know what it's like to not be, a citizen. And I think it's stupid. I'm so sick and tired of people weaponizing immigrants and people of color, especially Black people, when they haven't done shit for them.
Ma'am, are you pushing a red-brown alliance again?
I'm not pushing any red-brown alliance. I'm pushing a fucking working class alliance. That's what I'm pushing. And there are people who won't, because I'm too much of a communist for them. And there are people who won't talk to a libertarian because they think he's a fascist. They think Magnus is a fascist. And I'm just sick and tired of this shit. And so John, let's just go through the videos, Johnny. We're gonna go through the order. I think the first one is the one I pointed out. So let's just listen to what he said.
They sitting in cars all over this fucking place around here because you thought the South wasn't coming. Well, Joe Biden, the South's come. The roads are blocked, and I'm waiting on your phone call. It's your call. You got an option. You can shoot me and kill me right here and blow up 2.5 city blocks and let all the patrons out in the country know, because I ain't here to blow nobody up. I ain't here to hurt nobody. If I was, I wouldn't have told them to tell people to leave. I would have gunned this motherfucker and wrote it right up in your front door. But I'm here for a reason, Joe Biden. I'm here for a reason. I'm here for the American people. And if you want to take me out, take me out. But when the Patriots come, your ass is in trouble. 5 of us are already here. And I'm the little man. I'm the speaker. So if you blow my truck up, man, hey, it's on you, Joe. I'm ready to die for the cause.
It's interesting that they talk about revolution, though, because it wouldn't really be a revolution. Unfortunately, if the right starts doing something like this, where they start, attacking the government, I mean, I understand that they're attacking the government because they're upset for different reasons than we are. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the same thing. It comes down to class. If they start leading that, it's going to be a mess because the left is going to oppose them instead of opposing the state agencies, right? This is exactly what the powers that be want. They want more of a civil war so we don't get a class war.
Yeah. I just want to continue here what he has to say. What he has to say.
Yeah, the second one.
Well, fucking people think it's a joke, but they cleared the block. I done called 911 3 times. They need to get Joe Biden on here because this baby, it's awful. I'm not hurting nobody, Joe. I'm not pulling the trigger on this thing. I can't. There's no way for me to blow us up. Only you can by shooting a bullet through my window. You're the only one that can do it, Joe. I love this land. We got a few options here, Joe. You shoot me, there's 2.5 blocks going with me. And then you talking about a revolution? The revolution's on. It's here. It's today. I told my wife I'd be home by Sunday. I'm looking for all my other patriots to come out and help me. Because I got it standing. I got the foundation built, people. I'm here. They know I'm here. And I done told them to clear the blocks. They cut off health care. I can't even get damn shots for my back no more. But yeah, they're giving them superstar athletes, won't they? They'll give them to them. David Hanson, I'm up here in Washington, D.C. There's a Capitol or something. There's another Capitol. And I've done got the police coming, and I'm trying to get Joe Biden on the phone. I'm parked up here on the sidewalk right beside all this pretty stuff. And they don't realize.
So you mentioned the healthcare and how they give it to athletes and the shots and how he doesn't have access to them. Once again, that's like a whole other like class issue, right? That he's not the only one. Again, like if you have this movement of people on the right who tend to have weapons, right, that raise up and start chaos, unfortunately, the left is going to focus on bringing that down, and everybody else, they're going to use that as an excuse to crack down on every other type of protest.
Yeah. I don't think he's a deep, too nuanced type of people, just a very simple man, whatnot, but just not being able to survive in this country right now, losing everything, probably living paycheck to paycheck, he's going to be thrown off on his ass and stuff. And everybody's experiencing that across this country. 80% of the people work paycheck to paycheck, right? So, obviously, like we say, there's going to be a lot of drawback and negativity from what this guy is kind of preaching, but the whole class issue and what all Americans are facing nowadays, it's the commonality we have to see that's going to cause problems in more situations like this from people on both sides of the aisle. So,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To be continued. This is only just one step now, but, obviously we all know what happens and nothing gets blown up.
Yeah,
but,
no. We're not done yet, though. So there was the next one, Johnny, was the one that it was like it started later, I mean, if you went to 110, minute 10 is when, because before that it's repetitive. They just added a couple things.
Right beside all this pretty stuff, and they don't realize that I can't set this thing off.
Yeah.
When that bullet hits this windows, that's when it goes off. And it ain't my fault. They got the roads blocked. They know I'm here. I see the snipers over on the building. They better listen before they shoot. They better listen before they shoot. Biden, there was a change shortage for a reason. I got it all. I got loads of it. Loads of it, Biden. And it don't take but a half a roll of nickel to eat to a 50 caliber bullet.
All right, and then the last one is where he talks about Afghanistan. And this just comes full circle.
And brother, if you said if you could do anything to save one life, you said you'd do it. Well, you got a chance. I want to go home Sunday. I want to go home and see my wife. We're living in a free country, Joe. Choice yours. If you want to shoot me and take the chance of blowing up 2.5 city blocks, because that toolbox is full. Ammonium nitrate, it's full. I don't want to die, Joe. I want to go home. Just like the people in Afghanistan want to go home. Them people's lives are on your hands. All them dead people's on your hands. Afghanistan, I'm standing for you strong too. The motherfuckers should have bombed their asses and made sure you was all right before you left. Before we left. So if they blow me up Afghanistan, I hope somebody takes revenge on that. Because I'm a patriot. I love this land. I'll die for this land. Because my grandbaby's going to have the rights I had. Any of you other fuckers out there, any of you other patriots, y'all motherfuckers sitting at home, sitting on the couch, you out there fishing, playing the golf. I don't want to see no more fucking videos, patriots. It's time. This motherfucker, the revolution's on.
All right, and that was it. And then they took down his account on Facebook, and all the videos were mostly taken down. It was like hard to find. Did you want to say anything, Johnny? Okay. Oh, that's it. That's all I wanted to say on that. Like, they, you know.
Yeah, he also talked about various other things too, right? What you know what else he mentioned?
Yeah, he had anti-immigrant rhetoric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to put it on record that was also, talked about as well there.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to leave it out because not everybody's seen the video, right?
I don't know. I can't speak for everybody.
Well, yeah, exactly. Not everybody's seen the video, so that's what I'm saying. Yeah, he had some anti-immigrant talk on there. There's the Afghanistan stuff there as well. It's really, I don't know. We could have found the whole video and showed that, but I don't know. There's a lot of other things he mentioned there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to highlight the fact that this is like, I blame the system for people like this, the same way I blame the system for anybody, whether they stand on the right or left, for doing something like this. The same way, there have been countless of people who have taken hold of banks and done criminal things because they're in a very desperate situation. So I blame the system. I blame the lack of mental health care. I blame all of that stuff. Because that's just, for me, it's like I look at, rehabilitation rather than incarceration. And people have these beliefs, again, because they're ignorant to what really is the mechanism behind. It's not, it's not the immigrant. It's not anybody else. It's the people in power. So people always want to focus, this guy is a right-winger Trump supporter and all of that. That may be true, but that's the bigger point is, why are these people this way?
Well, all forms of existing bigotry, I think, are hyperinflated at times of economic distress. So you starve people out of resources, the bigotry just comes up even bigger and bigger. So how do we fight this form of bigotry? How do we educate these people to understand that it's not the immigrants' fault, that we caused the problem in the first place?
But there are rich capitalists that hold the same beliefs, though.
Meaning, like, who?
Rich capitalists, like, I don't know.
The rich capitalists because they're making money off of people's...
Right, yeah. No, I'm just saying it's not really just an economic drive. It's just more like...
No, I'm saying all forms of existing bigotry are hyperinflated
right.
during times of economic distress. I'm just saying poor people are more... I think get more bigoted when they get stripped of resources and stuff because then they blame people who don't look like them.
Right. I think a rich person is 10 times worse because they have more power.
Yeah.
And they know better. They have more education. They have more power. They just have these beliefs because most of the time it's because they want to maintain their power.
Yeah.
And so they see the rest of us as a nuisance. And other times it's because they do have these they come, from this hatred of like, I'm superior to everybody else. So that also plays a part in all of that.
I mean, yeah, the guy screaming about Afghanistan there, like, I'm saying, we should have bombed them. And so everybody get out safe and stuff like that, not even realizing, like, let me say this much too right now when it comes to Afghanistan. I don't want to get too far off the fucking beat pad with all the Trump people going right now blaming, look at Joe Biden, Trump wouldn't have done that, and Trump tried to get out there. No, if Trump spent half the time, half the energy, a third of the energy he did trying to get us out of Afghanistan, as he did at football players kneeling, they would have been fucking out of there. So don't start this whole shit like he was something like, special that he really tried. He didn't try. He was the commander-in-chief. He could have cut ties day one, pulled out, and dealt with it after. Not to say that that's the way we should do something, but he could have started planning for a pullout the day he got in there. But he didn't want to. So, like I said, this is it's just part of the system, the military-industrial complex doing what they're doing. And all that money that goes across seas could be used at home. So we do have Medicare and universal health care for citizens and education and a living standard where they're not freaking out and just...
This goes along, too, with the opioid crisis and also the fact that America has more more shootings. And it's not just because of the Second Amendment. It's also because there's a lot of disturbed people here. And Big Pharma has a huge role to play in all of that. And it's disgusting that happens all the time. Like that, it's not just like, oh, somebody has access to a gun. It's like guns and pills and just living under this capitalist system and all of this that's happened it really puts people in a situation where they're extremely unhealthy. Something I do not see in other countries where they have a different mentality when it comes to even something as simple as drinking. When it comes to family life, when it comes to all those things, those are things like America is unique for. I mean, and we were built on a whole, system of white supremacy and exploitation. I mean, that's what this country was. So we can't expect all that to be gone. But the real mechanism is this country is trying to continue to do the same thing now by turning people against each other while they get away with all the profit.
They're run by psychopaths.
Yeah.
What'd you say? Psychopathocracy?
Yeah,
of sorts, something like that. We're controlled by psychopaths, and this is the oldest play in the book, divide and conquer. And so if we really want to fix everything, we have to fix it, the right way, and that's on all fronts. You know what I'm saying? All fronts. Johnny, anything else before we read some Super Rays?
No.
Is there anything else for that?
There's another section.
But are we gonna do the guest, or are we doing the guest?
Yeah. So if you can send via Twitter.
I'm going to read some Super Rays while Johnny's doing that. By the way, 68 people over on Rokfin. That's not bad at all for starting off the show first section. Let's get it over 100. There are 209 watching on the YouTubes.
Let's get that double. Come on, guys.
Let's go. Kamshwari Kate's here. Just checking to see if the Rokfin tip is working today. Yes, Cam Shwari, it's working today. Thank you so much. Rob McMurtry, thank you for the Super Ray contribution. It is always appreciate on the couch. McMurtry.
McMurtry. Oh, you're right, actually.
McMurtry. Yeah. For once, I was right.
You were right.
For once, I was right. Rob McMurtry, thank you for that Super Ray contribution. It is appreciated on the couch. Jin Doe, thank you. No, Jin Doe, thank you. And Reeve Barker. Twitter won't let me post the George Carlin classic. Like much of this material, it was right on. And yes, it's it was some of the best. You know what I'm saying? They always want to talk about our differences. That's how they keep us divided. Our differences. Let's talk about things that bring us together.
Johnny, can
That's
you send
important.
me the link to my phone, or if you sent it already, let me know so I can.
Yeah. All right.
1 second, guys.
Oh, so check this out. This is, I guess I'll talk about this. This is Phoenix Crypto. This is, guys, they do like radio shows on basics of crypto, but they actually have ATMs where you can go buy crypto and receive money back. You know, when I was down in Mexico, I was looking for a crypto machine so I can go get my Bitcoin and get it out because I had a lot more Bitcoin than I had cash. So that's something we need to have in the community. See? Check it out. Cool. This is Pedro, the llama. Can you see them? Okay. That is Pedro. Oh, yeah. And old school. DX. Back on the spot. So, that's what we got going on right now.
So, I don't know if you guys have heard about the L3 pipeline, but I'm just going to start by telling you guys a little bit about it. This company called Enbridge is based in Calgary, Alberta in Canada, and they're building an oil pipeline running southeast from Canada's tar sands region to Lake Superior's western tip near the Minnesota-Wisconsin border. There's already a pipeline that exists, but it's old, so they want to build another route instead. So it's, like I said, it's going to replace the Enbridge's current Line 3 with a larger line along a different route. And Johnny, you can go ahead and put the picture of the pipeline so people know what to look at. Because
there it is.
It's pretty massive, and you can see that there's rivers and water that would be easily contaminated. And this isn't new. I mean, we've seen the Keystone Pipeline, the Dakota Access Pipeline. We've talked about the gas leak with in North Carolina that Robbie Yeager has been covering exhaustively.
Colonial.
Colonial.
What a name.
So there's so many, right? So one documentary, I would say documentary maker and also journalist, Stephen Goot, has actually been over there talking and interviewing with some of the protesters and having just really awesome footage. I was looking at it the other day. Steve, thank you for coming on. Nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me here. It's an honor to be here.
Thanks. And Johnny, I just wanted us to go to click on his Facebook video and watch like the first 2 minutes of some of the footage he had, because it's really impactful. It's an 8-minute long video. You guys should check it out, but let's just watch the first couple of minutes and then we'll get right into it.
When this is all over, you won't be able to drink the money Enbridge pays you to destroy our lands. You won't be able to eat it. You won't be able to send your kids to a college when they have no food or water in their stomachs. There will be no future without this river. There will be no future without this land. When you have polluted it all, what will you do? Do you think Enbridge will save you?
Yeah, and then they start, pushing each other, or they start moving back, and they stand their ground pretty well. I saw that. Like it was really nice to watch the whole thing. So Steve, what is Line 3 project in your own words, and why are they building it?
All right, so the Line 3 pipeline is a tar sand dilbit pipeline that is going to be built basically as a shortcut for Enbridge to go through the Great Lakes to connect with the Alberta tar sands up north with their refineries in Sarnia. And one of the misconceptions about this pipeline and the way it's been labeled is that it's a replacement line. It is not an oil pipeline. It is a tar sand dilbit pipeline. And the distinction is profound and needs to be made because, a lot of people, even core activists here, are referring to it as an oil pipeline. And that's really what the industry wants. So tar sand dilbit is a much different beast, especially when you move it several hundred miles, thousands of miles in this case. So moving a traditional crude oil and natural gas or chemicals obviously is problematic, but the real problem with dilbit is that it has the consistency of peanut butter. And so moving it through a pipe long distances, the word tar sands, it means that there's sand inside the pipe. And so basically when you move that at high pressure, the friction on the interior of the pipe is enormous. And so it has the effect of sandpaper on the inside of the pipe. So it's a much different beast than the original Line 3 pipeline, which was also problematic. But Enbridge's safety record is arguably the worst in the industry. They've had over 800 spills in the last 15 years and are responsible for the two largest inland oil spills in American history. Number one being the first Line 3 pipeline in 1991, spilled 1.7 million gallons of oil in the Grand Rapids, Minnesota area. And then the number two largest inland oil spill being the Line 6B incident in 2010. With Line 6B, that was a dilbit tar sand pipeline. And so the devastation that occurred as a result of that incident was much worse than any other pipeline rupture I've covered. And in the process, Enbridge was given Michigan taxpayer money to organize the cleanup and cut corners and intimidated the community who was sick and poisoned. And ultimately, the Kalamazoo River was destroyed and remains completely unsafe. You can't fish it, you can't swim in it. And Enbridge has mounted a massive cover-up for years. And a lot of the people who have been poisoned in the process have had to flee the area. So what an incident with Line 3 could look like would resemble more of the Kalamazoo dilbit spill in 2010. And so I think the Great Lakes are ultimately, one of America's greatest assets. It's not a resource, it is the source of life. And, to jeopardize 20 to, some odd percent of the world's fresh water is just insanity, and all for a foreign company just so they can take a shortcut to their refineries. It makes absolutely no sense, and it's supported in a bipartisan fashion. So, the fact that this was originally approved by Trump and is now perpetuated by Biden, just, like you have all, talked about earlier in the show, it's just, the system continually working to destroy the environment and push, the same kind of colonialism that the Ojibwe people have faced for hundreds of years.
Am I understanding you right when you're saying that this particular pipeline has like a sandpaper mechanism which makes it for like easier for leaks? Is that what you're implying?
Yes, exactly. So it's not like traditional crude oil that's, ultimately not going to cause a lot of friction on the inside of the pipe. And so a lot of people argue that's the safer way to move the substance. But with tar sands, it's different. Tar sand is, like I said, it has the consistency of peanut butter. So it's incredibly viscous, and it's inherently unsafe to move. And it makes no sense to do this thousands of miles across 200 water crossings for just Line 3. And the real problematic aspect of this is it's not just a Minnesota issue here. Line 3 ultimately is a Minnesota pipeline, but it connects with their infrastructure with the Line 5 pipeline, which then moves all of the material across Wisconsin, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, through the Mackinac Strait, and then over into Sarnia. So this affects the entire Great Lakes region. And, you know, when a spill occurs, not if, it's going to be nearly impossible to clean up. The Army Corps has already stated that if something happened in the winter, there'd be pretty much nothing that they can do about it.
Wow. I think I read that they have completed most of it, right? How much do they have left so far?
Well, we can only really speculate, but Enbridge and the state of Minnesota has pledged to complete the pipeline by the 4th fiscal quarter of this year. And so we've spent the past month and a half basically scoping out the pipeline route and looking at the construction, and they are building this thing faster than any other pipeline I've ever seen. And I've covered a lot of pipeline construction at this point, unfortunately. But literally they're working around the clock, and I've never seen this many crews for one pipeline. They're drilling all over the state of Minnesota. And so they've already completed most of the pipeline and put it in the ground in the northwestern part of the state. And then areas like Bagley down to Park Rapids, the pipe is being buried there. So realistically, the only area they really need to finish is going to be the stretch kind of just west of Duluth. And so that's kind of where a lot of the direct action has been occurring. So even this morning, I think something like 20 people were arrested locking down somewhere outside of the Duluth area. And I think it was Camp McGeezy that was performing that direct action. So I'd say probably, about a week ago, they estimated about 80% of the pipeline's finished. I'd say a little bit more than that, but yeah, we only have a couple weeks left until this is in the ground. So I keep telling everyone who's involved with Standing Rock or has any regard of environmental ethos, like this is the time to get involved, now. Like it should have been weeks ago, but there's some good people here on the front lines. The numbers aren't insanely high, but there's been some really good actions the past week, and I'm starting to notice that there's more consciousness on a national level starting to occur. And finally, people are having a conversation about Line 3 and why it could be such a disaster.
Who are the water protectors and the hashtag Stop Line 3 movement soldiers that are fighting back against the oil company?
Well, it's pretty much an indigenous-led movement here. And originally there was kind of one core camp that was protesting Line 3, but there's been, kind of a schisming that happened. And so people have been handling things in a more autonomous way. So different camps have emerged and started. So there's a few different kind of key figureheads. Winona LaDuke, who ran for vice president with Nader in 2000 and is, kind of one of the quintessential indigenous environmental leaders in this country right now. She's with Honor the Earth and has a camp. Then there's Red Lake Treaty Camp that's run by So those have been kind of the core entities. There was also the Firelight Camp that was over by the Mississippi headwaters in Itasca, but they shut down about 2 weeks ago, and now they're currently walking to the Capitol to go perform an occupation starting on the 25th. So we're going to be heading over there in a couple days and going to be documenting the occupation. And
where's the Capitol at?
In St. Paul.
Gotcha.
St. Paul, Minnesota. Yeah. So tell us about the legal battle too, because there was a tribal lawsuit against the pipeline, but I think it's running into a tough time.
Yeah, there's been multiple lawsuits against the flawed permitting process here with Line 3. Enbridge has basically just owned and operated the courts and politicians here in the Great Lakes area for some time, not just Minnesota, but also Wisconsin and Michigan as well. And so realistically, they jammed this permitting process through very quickly. And, now regulators are starting to say, oh, this looks like there might be some red flags here. So I don't hold a lot of hope in the state and the regulators to do the right things. They're already bought and paid for. But, kind of every avenue that we have that we can try and fight the pipeline, and the legal front is a big one. So it can stop battles, but ultimately the deck is stacked in favor of the industry. But in particular, I think the lawsuit that you're talking about is the lawsuit that was filed by the Fond du Lac tribe. Mm-hmm. And the Fond du Lac tribe was the tribe that allowed for the pipeline to run through their land. And ultimately, it really wasn't even the tribe that made that decision. It was the former chairman. So now the current chairman is saying, well, wait a minute, that was a corrupt deal. And the tribe does not approve of Enbridge coming through these lands. But the Minnesota courts have superseded that decision and said that, no, the previous ruling and the deal made with the former leadership of the Fond du Lac tribe stands. And so another aspect of the permitting process here that's very fishy is, this pipeline ultimately, it's an international pipeline, number one, but number two, it's not just a Minnesota state project. So since it goes and connects with Line 5, realistically, the permitting process should have also been overseen by FERC, the national permitting board that needs to approve pipelines. And I think that's why Joe Biden ultimately made the Keystone XL pipeline a sacrificial lamb to prove that he's a quote unquote environmentalist. Yeah, right. But that was basically, they could say that that project, they knew they were never going to be able to get it approved. And it had been, a legal battle for, 15 years now, maybe even more than that. And so they knew that that was never going to happen. But Line 3 is a little different story. All they need to do is railroad it through the Michigan or the Minnesota system and the Michigan system. They don't need to, do an interstate project and have to worry about federal oversight. So a lot of these aspects are very problematic. And, I really hope that people that are working in the legal front have some success in that regard. But like I said, when it comes to working within the system, I'll believe it when I see it kind of thing.
Yeah,
I hear you. Well, many people haven't heard about this pipeline being built. And you interviewed a young woman who said that she was censored online for speaking up about it. What are the specific money interests? And is this only a U.S.-Canada thing, or is there outside money coming in?
Oh, I mean, it's just the rabbit hole goes deep with this one, Pasta. It's
we like rabbit holes, Steve. Take us down there. Be our tour guide.
That's why we're in good company here, and why me and Fiorella have been friends for so long. That may seem to get arrested in the same places, but this project is most definitely international, and so it really doesn't serve a lot of American purposes. I mean, this is only going to create a few temporary jobs, and all those are going to be over in a couple weeks. So realistically, the whole employment propaganda and the energy independence, keep us out of the Middle East aspects is pretty ridiculous the minute you start to actually do a little bit of research. This pipeline, none of the fuel that's going to be refined is even going to be used in America. And the issue with that is because tar sands are inherently very dirty, and the industry is on the verge of collapsing right now. For a long time, people thought that shale was going to be what, ultimately made America and Canada the energy leaders of the world. But it's basically just like a continuation of coal, but even dirtier. And so all of the fuel, once the dilbit goes through the pipeline, will then be processed into something called pet coke. And the pet coke will be then sold almost exclusively on the international market, not entirely exclusively. And it will only be sold to countries with lower environmental standards. So it's appearing that China is going to be the prime beneficiary of most of the pet coke. And, that gets into a lot of conspiracies of who is actually dictating this censorship campaign that's currently going on. But it's definitely not like the days of Standing Rock where we post a video and 500,000 people would watch it. Now we need to, claw our way through the algorithm to just try and make sure 1,000 to 10,000 people watch it. And luckily through, really voracious word of mouth campaign and trying to do it old school and message videos to, friends and allies individually, it's been very difficult. Like anything associated with Line 3 just gets buried in the algorithm. And, who is ultimately dictating that? But as you all know, with your show, I'm sure you've been throttled in a big way since, past 4 years, but in particular since January 6th. So they've used the Capitol as an excuse to basically cut down on any dissent against the system, not just for right-wingers, but it's also especially people who are more anarchist-minded are really getting thrown under the bus right now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. An article by Slate states that the police force in Minnesota were paid $750,000 to police like about 3 protesters, and that they recently arrested elder women, 7 of them. Have the altercations with police gotten worse? I only saw a little snippet of that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, realistically, the 2 things you're referencing happened about 2 months ago, the Shell 7, and that was Winona LaDuke and a few other Native leaders. But I think as of today, there's been over 800 people that have been arrested, which is more than the entire campaign during the Dakota Access Pipeline construction in Standing Rock. So it's a different kind of policing here, though. It's not like what happened with DAPL when, people were getting shot at by the military and whatnot. I think they realized that was like ultimately optics that will stop this pipeline. And so they're trying to handle the policing a little bit differently here. And so now I think infiltration, provocateurs, trying to create infighting within the camps. Wow. A lot of that is kind of the more preferred method, kind of COINTELPRO subversive measures.
We were just talking about this today.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Okay, with Cynthia McKinney. That's what they do. They infiltrate.
It's more like being in a spy movie out here than like a traditional war zone, but it's been pretty intense. And like there was one point where we almost got run off the road by a sheriff, and there's been multiple direct actions where several people have been arrested, and in the past week to 2 weeks, people have been locking down a lot more. So there's been mass arrests, and I would wager that the next 2 weeks things are really going to ramp up around here, especially if people start paying attention. But everyone here on the front lines has been doing this work for months, years in some cases. And so it's time for the general public to get involved. And, you don't need to be here in Minnesota to organize an action against Enbridge. There were I think 40 cities that held solidarity actions in the past week and protested in front of banks and called on divestment from Enbridge and Line 3. So realistically, I think, we still have time to stop this, and it's just a matter of urgency. There's so many other things like the recall election in California that people are paying attention to. And, of course, COVID is, raging worse than ever, but that doesn't mean we should go back to sleep again. And in terms of the Great Lakes, I think, that's pretty much the most important aspect of, just our economy. If the Great Lakes goes, we won't have a country anymore. We're like some Mad Max bullshit.
Oh, yeah. I'm really concerned now, too. You say that many arrests have already been taken. Have any charges been brought? Because we had a situation just recently, right? We had a water protector. They smacked the domestic terrorist label on her, right? And this is why we tell the left, hey, guys, they're going to come, they're going to use it against us, too. She got 8 years. They doubled her sentence because of the domestic terrorist label. Have you heard of any of the 800 arrests? Have they been getting charged as a domestic terrorist yet?
I haven't heard about any Homeland Security charges yet or domestic terrorism charges, but I haven't been quite as involved in that legal front. I can tell you that there's been multiple felony trespass in the past week, though, and I'm sure they're going to try and, up some of the charges. I know one of my friends, his trial just got deferred from a couple weeks ago to October, and they're basically trying to just mount all the evidence possible and then throw stricter charges against them. So they even did, I think, talk about being potentially charged for some kind of Homeland Security violations.
Jeez.
And it's something that, even we face as journalists now. In a lot of, I think in 21 states now, you can go to jail for as much as 70 years for just covering an oil and gas infrastructure protest. Luckily, Minnesota is not one of those 21 states, but Wisconsin is. And, it makes you wonder why Tony Evers, the Democratic governor, was so on board with, this draconian law that favors the fossil fuel industry.
Yep.
And I mean, they've simultaneously made deals with the Chinese company Foxconn and have opened up a lot of their mining regulations for industry to come in, especially foreign industry. So, yeah, it's a weird time right now to be a water protector or a journalist or just someone who's on the front lines because, you could really face some severe draconian ramifications for speaking your mind and doing the right thing.
There's so much going on too with Julian Assange. It's just like, if that happens, like, forget it.
Yeah.
What can we do? What can be done? What are some resources you advocate for people to go to? And what can people do to really help bring this story to the forefront? I've seen very little about it. My sister told me about it, actually, the first on TikTok. There were like little videos going around TikTok, and that's all I've seen. I haven't really seen that much attention paid to it. So what can we do?
Yeah, aside from a smattering of like, just a few articles here and there that might pop up in like the back of the New York Times or whatnot, or like Slate, there really has been a media blackout here kind of in the early days of Standing Rock. And so there's a small group of independent media out here, but we've been working around the clock to try and release as much content as we can and, just break the algorithm and, try and create a larger national conversation. But, realistically, we just need everyone to speak out against this. Like, go live, talk about it, have tough conversations with your friends and family, and, take all avenues possible. A lot of people are advocating writing your congressional representatives. I mean, give it a try, but, the only thing that's really going to stop this is people really giving their entire heart and being into this. And there's only a couple to 3 weeks left. So I'd say just dedicate yourself for the next 2 to 3 weeks. If you really care about the water, if you really care about tribal sovereignty rights, if you really care about future generations, and if you care about having a system that's for the people and not for a foreign company to like just take a shortcut to save a few bucks, I mean, it's time to get involved. And I think the only thing that is really going to stop this, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, is if regular centrist Democrats get off their ass and start to question their own people. Because the hypocrisy that these, Democrats are, brandishing right now, claiming to care about climate change every other tweet, and then supporting Enbridge to build a tar sand pipeline. I mean, this tar sand pipeline alone, the energy equivalent carbon-wise will be the same as building 50 new coal-fired plants. I mean, that's absurd. Like, I don't know how people can, go through these mental gymnastics to justify that these people are environmentalists. So I think that hypocrisy and the concern of them losing their positions in 3 years to some kind of Republicans seems to be terrifying to them.
Yeah.
So if you want to not be judged by, the bullshit hypocrisy in 3 years, it's time for the Democrats to stop line 3 and to get involved and to not be afraid to question your own leadership. I think that's the biggest problem, is they're scared to point out the flaws of their own. And I've had multiple Democrats write me and tell me to stop the coverage of line 3 because it could get a Republican elected in 3 years. I mean, that's some insane cult shit that I'm not going to tolerate.
Yeah.
So it's time for people to put their mouth, their mind where their money is, and, just instead of just talking the talk, walk the walk.
Yeah.
Get involved, stop line 3 now by whatever means necessary. Even if you just go and hold a sign in front of your local Wells Fargo and stand out there and live stream it for a few minutes and say, stop line 3, and convince other people to do it. I bet you that could create a wave of action that, they might have to pay attention to. But realistically, I think things could heat up here at the Capitol on the 25th. And depending on what goes down there with the police, and if the occupation's allowed to stay, or if it's violently broken up before it can begin, that could create some optics that could actually make people care about stopping the pipeline.
Steve, tell us where we can find your work, where people can go check out some more of your footage.
So we have been producing a series about water called Confluence Document. All of the downstream consequences to our society.
Steve, can you start over? You got cut off right in the very beginning.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So yeah, we've been producing a film series called Confluence for about 7 years. And it originally started as a project about the Missouri River, but has grown and grown and grown by investigating downstream consequences. So we're using water as a reflective lens to analyze all sorts of the issues that our society faces, whether it be political, environmental, social justice causes, et cetera. And so we've been to 48 states in the past 7 years, and we've tried to put out all the micro content that we can but simultaneously we're working on a more long-winded series of hour-long episodes that will cover the whole country and investigate all of America's watershed. And so it's called Confluence Documentary. You can find it on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're not on TikTok yet. Sorry about that, but we'll be there soon. We need to be there for the kids. But
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, check that out. And then I also post on my personal page because the Confluence Documentary site has been throttled so hard and probably was labeled a fake news site after Standing Rock. So we've had to do whatever to like just mass saturate releasing content. And you know, I thank you guys for having me on the show and trying to stop Line 3. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, we see the hotel lights behind you. You're out there in the field doing the hard work, brother. We do appreciate that, man. You know, real journalism right here, Stephen. Thank you so much, everybody. Go check out his stuff, and let's stop Line 3. Thank you.
All right, see y'all back in LA.
You got it, Stephen.
Bye.
Awesome guest.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean,
guest.
that's a lot of people aren't talking about that, and
At all.
a lot of people ignored the Colonial Pipeline. They're ignoring this one. There's so much going on too in the news.
Yeah.
There's oversaturation. COVID is what everybody's focused on.
Yeah.
They're still talking about January 6th, right, fam?
Still talking about January 6th.
Still talking about it.
But let me just really quickly see if there's any love over on the Rokfin, which there is. Hunter C just got here, fam. Much love, Hunter. Carranza. Lucky Burrito, A&M. Leo heard Pedro came running. Much love, fam. We'll get him going later on. Jig Forever, thank you so much for the super great contribution. Question for Steve. Can you comment in the pipeline if the pipeline will be used for export or domestic use? We're often told these pipelines are for job, but that's been a dubious claim in the past. I think you did talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
That number one, if there's any job, they're going to be for a couple weeks over here. It's going to be exported out. It's a lower standard of oil, so it's going to go to third world nations, and they even said that China is going to get a lot of it as well. So, yeah, to answer your question, it's more for foreign export, not for domestic. We're not getting any benefit. The only thing we can get from it is dirty water. Our water poisoned, oil everywhere, killing the wildlife.
I don't think people realize how big of an issue the Great Lakes are. I mean, the Great Lakes are huge. Like, if that goes down, he's right. Like, we already have a drought here. Like, this shit just seems bad on all fronts.
Somebody, Kristen Nye, looks like she put down another person who's doing some work there. His name is John Bolenbach.
Okay,
and his guys, you can click on his link there. And it looks like he's a water protector of sorts.
Nice.
It says tar sands whistleblower. So go check out his page right over there if you get the time.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you, Kristen Knight. And Ben Smith. Hey, can we get this guy on Jimmy's show? Hey, call up Jimmy. Let him know. Say, Jimmy, get this guy.
Yeah.
Hit him up on the tweeters or I think he's got an email or something. Hit him up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We can put it in his radar too, but you just if there's more people that want it, if somebody like Jimmy with a huge platform covers it, I think it would really, really help out.
Fam. Okay. So you pulled this article up, and it's kind of funny because the article, it was also not just in the U.S.
U.S. News.
It was in Reuters. It was in Yahoo. I saw it on Yahoo first as well. Mm-hmm. And it says exclusive FBI finds scant evidence of U.S. Capitol attack was coordinated sources, meaning there was scant evidence.
Right.
Which is not really a solid case you want to take to court. Say, hey, yo, by the way, we got connections.
But isn't this what we said that it was coordinated, but we were talking about it being like a psyop, like, you know, COINTELPRO, it's been the word of the day today. People getting involved and you know, they did trace several military officials and several people involved in intelligence who happened to be there. And of course, we saw how it happened. Sure, at the front, there was some, you know, you could say there was like violent altercations, but people were let in. They were walking around like it was a tour. That also happened. And they're still trying to talk about it like it was this whole
Stay within the ropes, please. Like
this whole like insurrection, right? That's why it's in quotes, insurrection.
Yeah, I think when we had the interview with the World Journalist Association.
World Socialist website?
Yeah, they were saying, oh, this was a planned attack and blah, blah, blah. And no, it really wasn't. It would look like it was, from what we could guess, or my personal opinion too as well, I'll just speak for myself, is that it it seemed like they were trying to set stuff off. Like there were instigators that were trying to really make it something big, and hopefully that the crowd would follow behind. I even said at one point, look at that crowd behind them. They better be careful because this crowd might move up. Well, guess what? They didn't. They stayed back. They didn't go there. So even though, and let me also say this too as well, because I want to peel off for 1 second. Because this is happening. This is the political tennis that's being played. And Jonny can speak of this. Fiorella can speak of this. I've heard Ford speak about this. They try to make it on Fox News like all the Black Lives Matter protests are awful. Like they're burning down the cities down to bloody ashes, and that people are getting hurt and murdered and whatnot. And you can't deny that there have been places that have been burnt and people have been injured, but for the most part, they're peaceful protests. They really are. And I'm not saying that this is peaceful protest at all, but when you start playing political tennis and you try to demonize both sides, either side, now you're just going back and forth.
Right. Even if I agree with the ideology of BLM more, there's a lot of hypocrisy too on the liberal side about this whole thing. Because if it had been Bernie Sanders telling people to go to the Capitol and fight for the results, the left would have loved it. In 2016, that's what we wanted him to do. So I always go back to that. And I just wanted to read a paragraph from this article. They said, though federal officials have arrested more than 570 alleged participants, the FBI at this point believes the violence was not centrally coordinated by far-right groups or prominent supporters of then-President Donald Trump, according to the sources who have been either directly involved or briefed regularly on the wide-ranging investigations. 90 to 95% of these are one-off cases, said a former senior law enforcement official with knowledge of the investigation. Then you have 5% maybe of these militia groups that were more closely organized. But there was no grand scheme with Roger Stone and Alex Jones and all these people to storm the Capitol and take hostages, which is literally what they've been claiming for the last fucking I don't know how many months now, like 8 months, like 9 months. It's ridiculous. Like this, and they have, what did they do on the behalf? They created this whole idea of domestic violent extremists, and now the Department of Homeland Security has added any sort of questioning of elections and the COVID and all these other things to it, right? Yeah. So now it's too late. It's too late. Now you have people whose rights have been eradicated, meaning ours, because now people like Steven could get arrested for merely being a journalist. And the water protectors, they can get 8 years, like one just got for the Dakota Access Pipeline. And so this is now going to be worse. And we told you it would be from the start, because it was never about crucifying the right. It was about using them as bait to get everybody else. Yeah, and the worst thing I think that can come of this stuff is when we play into this political football game, is that this allows the intelligence apparatus to even take away more of our civil liberties. We have less freedoms now. Now they can track us on every single thing. Look at all our bank statements. In fact, and that's how they were catching a lot of people that were there on January 6th, is the bank was giving over information of them using the ATMs and stuff. So once you give that inch, they take a foot. And guess what? Once they take away those civil liberties, they never give them back. And that's the very damaging thing of this particular January 6th situation. I'm not saying that people shouldn't pay a price who went in there, who did things. Treat everybody on their own particular merits, but to try to make this big whole, this was a cabal going on. A coup. I mean, come on, guys. Like comparing it to the Taliban. Stop it. Just stop it. And once again, we don't agree with a lot of these people's ideology. No. But to think that this was some type of coup or real insurrection, it's just mind-blowing. It was not. Okay? Yeah. Also, though, fam, the fact is, did you have anything to say about that article? Because I want to say, because no matter what, they have to still keep the narrative going. So the FBI is still seeking information regarding people who committed violence at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Visit go.usa, hashtag I'm a snitch, to see photos and videos from current cases. And if you recognize someone, submit a tip. Tips for the FBI.gov. Yes, and there was a lot of, during that time when emotions were heightened, you saw people attacked us. You saw all these people, yelling, saying, "Oh, you're protecting these people. You're da 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 da." Like when we were just simply stating what we now know to be true, that it wasn't this whole planned thing by these Trumpers, right? If anything, this has been weaponized by the state agencies, right? And you have this tweet here.
Well, then you got, the political football, everybody go back and forth, whatnot. Raise your hand if you want this plane landing in your town. America paid unimaginable cost in Afghanistan because of an uniparty globalist who dominated the Bush and Obama administrations. No more. And then you have Laura Schwartz making a comment on January 6th. This landed in my town. I'm confident refugees from Afghanistan would show greater respect for the rule of law. So now here you go.
Wow.
Demonizing both sides, the Republicans.
Hey, okay,
so
this right winger probably needs to understand that this all started with the Mujahideen, in the late 70s, like when we completely helped overthrow their leftist government, their socialist government, and created the Mujahideen, or ushered in the Mujahideen, which then became the Taliban. And so that's it's on the entire American system, the entire agencies and military industrial complex, which includes both Republicans and Democrats. It's not one or the other.
I was going to say, you want to bet Steve Cortez would love Ronald Reagan?
Max.
Right?
Yeah.
Want to bet that he would love Ronald Reagan? Well, Ronald Reagan threw the Molotov cocktail.
He's Hispanic.
He threw the Molotov cocktail on the whole Mujahideen situation, whatnot. After Carter got out, Reagan just amped up the Stinger missiles and whatnot. And these were some of the most fanatical people out there.
Yep.
These people were known for throwing, acid on on women's faces and shit.
And we were supporting them at that point.
Yes, because they were killing Russians.
Exactly. And we didn't want the Russians because of communism. And so then Laura Schwartz, I say, when the hell have you cared about refugees before now, where it's politically in your face? This has been going on for over 20 years, and none of these people gave two shits about Afghanistan. They didn't. And so now all these liberals are coming out of the woodworks acting like, oh, we must accept refugees, we must do this. Of course, we fucking created this the same way we created the regime change wars in Latin America, which we should also accept those refugees because we created these regime change wars. You want to stop immigrants from coming in to the right? Stop creating fucking refugees. End of story. The best way to help women in Afghanistan is to stop fucking bombing them. The best way to help anybody is to stop sanctioning them. That's the end of story. That's it. Stop playing political games of, ooh, I'm going to appeal to the right, I'm going to appeal to the left and their emotions. I'm just so sick and tired of the political football that they play. And it's not just politicians. Now it's like these pundits and all of these propagandists and these people that buy into that and continue just having this team blue and team red, and nothing fucking changes. Not one fucking thing.
When Obama was selling the surge in 2008, I think it was 2009, nobody was saying anything pushing him back. Because surge sounds so sexy. We're going to surge.
Yeah.
What do you mean surge? That means more deaths, more bombing, more killing. He upped the troop level. And for all these people out there right now, some of the shit libs out there, I'm so sorry, or people who just think, oh my God, what are we doing? We're leaving these people behind. It's awful. At the end of the day, we should have never been in there, and we can't stay there. We have to get out. And I don't even think we're getting out. I think we're just privatizing the war more. I'm going to have a lot more mercenaries there anyways whatsoever, but we cannot stay there. Do you really think American soldiers there are like Captain America fighting and saying, stop, help the women? No, they're killing people left and right over there. Why do you think the Taliban was so easily able to take over when the Americans left? Because they want the Americans out. So stop thinking of it as it's a peace mission or something like that. American troops equal more death. And it's the worst kind of death because it's on their land. Yeah. Justice for Ashley Babbitt, says Michael Burks. And Keith Olbermann's disgusting ass. She got it on January 6th. How come this asshole hasn't been fucking pulled from Twitter or YouTube or anywhere else and whatnot? This guy has become a disgusting son of a bitch.
I think it's all an act. I mean, he's a propagandist. He gets paid good money to be that person, right?
I mean,
it's disgusting.
He was never there before.
You have Hakeem Jeffries
taking his jacket off, fam. You know what I'm saying? Like, these guys are such phonies and stuff. Listen to he goes, if Trump seditionists are coming in here, I'm going to take my jacket off.
Oh, my God.
Get ready. They love to play the part, these guys.
Christ.
I didn't even know there was gas masks underneath my seats and stuff. They said, get your gas mask ready. And I'm like, well, I ain't going down without a fight. Let's take my jacket off and go. It's just, I had to.
They're so, this is all
so
theater.
Melodramatic.
But this is what she talked about. She said this is all theater, right? This is all they do. It's theater. This is why maybe we recognize it, because we know theater.
Theater. So Glenn Greenwald pretty much sets the record straight. The FBI has found scant evidence that on January 6th attack the U.S. Capitol was a result of an organized plot to overturn the presidential election and results. And he says the FBI at this point believes the violence was not centrally coordinated by far-right groups or prominent supporters of Donald Trump. The only thing more deranged than claiming Russia had taken over control of the U.S. through blackmail is calling January 6th an insurrection.
Yeah,
and that is just... I share your feelings, Glenn. I'm glad that you always can speak my mind. You find the words for me. Because it is really, it's just really crazy sad that people are buying into this because they're just using this, like I said, to merit themselves, giving more laws to the security state and taking away more of our freedoms. By sooner or later, we'll have zero freedoms whatsoever.
Yeah, that's what's
They'll be
happening.
following. A voice will be telling us in the bathroom to not use too much toilet paper or something, whatnot.
Or they'll tell us we can't use the words based or cucked or normies. I mean, this is hilarious right here.
This scares the shit out. I mean, who do these people really believe them fucking selves when they say this shit? Has this woman gone out of her house in like 10 years?
It's just weird because we have like I feel like our group is like uses all these words like cucked. Our fam. Like they do. It's just funny. Like are they like it's like they watch the Convo Couch or something. Maybe, I don't know.
But how does this woman take herself serious? Check this video out.
Can parents look out for maybe language that they use, their young sons might be using,
telltale
or
signs,
behaviour that they might have?
Yes, they can. So there are lots of bits of language that might be red flags referring to people as normies or as triggered. Normies is the word incels use for people outside their community. Triggered, based, cucked, describing being red-pilled or black-pilled, which are words they use to describe being infiltrated into the ideology. Yeah. And it's worth saying as well that they see this as a kind of conduit to other forms of extremism. It isn't completely separate from far-right, white nationalist, white supremacist movements. They actually really see it as a slipway. So parents might see a combination of perhaps also racism creeping in as well. The incel community is a very racist community. This is a racist ideology. And of course, white supremacist is a deeply misogynistic ideology.
Yeah. Can parents look out for?
So it's interesting because somebody commented when I tweeted this. They were like, "So all three of my kids are like these incels and these extremists then." Because all like so your kids, I mean, my sister says based all the time. She must be an extremist. You know, we like it's now right? They're policing our. This is Australia, right? By the way, they're policing people's language now, right? They're policing what you say, what you don't say, and the whole normies thing. I didn't even know that was popular. I started calling people that a long time ago. People who were outside of politics. I was always like, Pasta, it's just so hard to like talk to people who are normies, like to be in a relationship with somebody that's a normie because like. They're normies. Like, I say it all the time. I didn't ever think it was some sort of radical, like, it's just hilarious.
You have the...
I'm an incel now.
That's it. It's seeping into your soul right now and stuff, you know. You're radicalized. You don't even know what's happening and whatnot. We're going to have a conversation. Don't use the word red pill or black pilled anymore.
That's the other thing that what's her face? Sky Daddy uses too, all black pilled. She was saying Fiorella blackpilled this person at this show. It was just funny. Like, I don't know. And I just put this in earlier today, Johnny, because the Capitol Police found the officer who shot Ashley Babbitt acted lawfully, and I believe this is Ashley Babbitt. I believe.
This is the Ashley Babbitt.
Let me see. Yeah, there it is. The Capitol Police said the officer involved in the shooting of Ashley Babbitt, 35, will not be facing internal discipline after its Office of Professional Responsibility determined his or her conduct was lawful. The department also said the actions of the officer, who is not being identified for his or her safety, potentially saved members and staff from serious injury and possible death, as a mob of President Trump's supporters breached the U.S. Capitol and forced their way into the House chamber. We have seen that video. We played it here when this happened. That woman was... like unarmed. That woman was like everybody else there. She wasn't even at the very front. She was shot point blank, murdered, executed. I stand against police violence. Period. End of story. I do not care who does it. She did not deserve to die. They could have arrested her just like they arrested everybody else. It wouldn't have changed a goddamn thing. The way they're getting away with this now is the same way they get away with shooting unarmed people of color. You may not like her beliefs. It's still wrong. And the fact that so many people called me white supremacist adjacent for saying that this is wrong is disgusting. So many people who tout themselves as progressives and say, oh, these white supremacists, in 1 second, they'd be willing to allow police violence just because they disagree with somebody's ideology. And that's what I have a problem with. As much as I disagree with Ashley Babbitt's ideology, I still think it was wrong for her to have died that way. If you want to have a trial for her and crucify her in another way, sure, by all means do that. But the way she was murdered was unacceptable, and I think it's wrong, and I'm not going to change my mind on that. I think it's wrong because it's going to allow, once again, oh, you didn't care about Ashley Babbitt getting shot, but the next time somebody else shoots a black man or a Latino man or a poor person, and it's on your ideology, you're going to be pissed, and they're going to say, you didn't care about Ashley Babbitt. You see, if you're not consistent in your point of view, then shit like that happens, and nothing fucking changes.
I was waiting for Joe Biden to come saying, like, he should have shot her in the leg, but he didn't come by and say that.
No, not even.
Not even. So, there are no super rays on Rokfin right now. Johnny, anything to say on that topic? All right, so the last one. Are we staying? Oh, is it 2 sections?
But they're small.
Are we staying here for this one?
No.
So we're Rokfin only in? All right, guys, ladies and...
It's, the FDA is approving...
Vax, the congressman introduces bill to ban unvaccinated from flying. So let's get over to Rokfin.
Yeah, sorry, guys. We have to be careful.
We just can't take any chances right now, guys. Yeah. We do apologize.
We want you guys to get to this information. All you have to do is click the Rokfin link.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can put it in the chat real quick. I'm going to put the Rokfin link in the chat.
Yeah, guys, get on over to Rokfin. That's ROKFIN. Meet our friend.
That number up.
Pedro the Llama. He's here. Where's Leo? Leo, if you heard it, come running in the room. Yes. This is the last section. Well, we have to talk about the boop boop.
It's too.
Unfortunately, we can't do it on YouTube's.
Okay.
Australia is going way too far to the right.
They absolutely are. Yeah, somebody said, I disagree. She was not a peaceful protester. She was breaking into the Capitol. Okay, so then everybody else should have been shot too, because they were all breaking into the Capitol. And every looter that's ever gone to a CVS should also be shot point blank, right? Or every person that burned the cities should also be shot then because they weren't peaceful. You can't be a fucking hypocrite. I'm so sorry. That is, you know why I get so mad? Because that is what allows this to continue. That is what allows everything to continue. That if you create exceptions for your ideology instead of what is right, if you stand against police violence, you stand against police violence, period. I don't like police. I don't want them. And that goes for anybody. Like, a lot of these people, they were like, oh, we backed you, Blue. We backed you. They got a huge dose of fucking reality when the police started going after them.
Yeah. Come on, Blue, we backed you.
And I was like, we told you they weren't your friends.
Scratching their fucking heads like, what? Like, yeah.
They're going to turn on you because they're the stormtroopers for the state agencies.
That's it.
That's what these people need to realize.
And when they come for your guns, who do you think they're sending? These guys.
Yep.
So have fun with that shit. All right, guys, were we off the other ones yet, Johnny? We are leaving.
We love you guys.
Buy a Twitter.
Go. Oh, I gotta play that game, Johnny. I gotta buy that
Twitch
game so I can go on Twitch
buy
and
it
play.
Facebook.